2010. This is going to be the first election in something like 22 years or something, or maybe the last election was the first one that a Bush hadn't been on the ballot in some way. But, you know, I don't know. I think there is an opportunity for a Democrat now that may not have existed in the past. And I think if it is a thoughtful person who is trying to lay out a program that will benefit Texas, I think you have a chance. And I think if you don't run, you got no chance. We'll see.
Was Barack Obama your choice for among the Democrats for president?
He was. I voted for him in the primary as well as the general election. And I'll tell you why I did. I thought he had the intellectual capacity to change America and to change the debate in America. I believe we've become too partisan and too destructive toward one another. And I thought the message that he gave of not demonizing your opponents but laying out the things that you want to do was a very positive message. And I hope to make that, to have that same kind of positive message for Texans.
What advice, if any, have you gotten from your brother Bob?
My brother and I found out a long time ago it'd be best if we just kept our advice to each other, to ourselves.
Since we're asking your voting history, I assume it's safe to assume you voted for President Bush both times.
I did.
Did you vote for him for governor, or did you vote even against Governor Richard?
I did. He was my friend and he was my business partner, and I kind of put a little special niche on there for friends.
Do you expect to get any Republican support and maybe his support? I guess not.
Well, I would never put the president in that kind of position. I mean, he's a Republican, and he never asked me to do things for the Republicans, and I wouldn't ask him to do anything for the Democrats. But it's not going to harm our friendship.
Do you regret voting for him for president?
Do what?
Do you regret voting for him for president?
You said earlier you'll expect after 2 or 3 months, I'll make the final decision to run. And do you think you're gonna run after those 2 or 3 months, or you're not sure now and you'll make?
Well, I'd like to go out and ask some other people about what their opinion is of me running, and we'll see what that is, and then we'll make a decision after that.
Do you have a dollar sign trying to get to it? You know, if I can raise this much in 2 months, then I know X amount.
I don't think it works that way. I think the truth of the matter is I don't think you ever raise the money until you say I'm going to do it. And then there are people that want you to win that will give you money, and then there are people who think you're going to win and they'll give you money. But that's just the process.
Why explore? Why not just go ahead and do it?
I don't think it ever hurts to ask people. You know, I've done a lot of things in my life, and I found it to be a real advantage to go talk to people about what it is that you want to do and ask them, and it helps a lot. I was a grader for Dr. Jim Roach at the University of Texas, and I had every grader's question was, how do you tell the difference between an A paper, a B paper, and a C paper? And I always remember what Dr. Roach told me. He said, go take 20 blue books, turn them face down so you don't know the name, read the blue books, and when you get through with that 20, you'll know which ones are the A papers, the B papers, and the C papers. I've done that my whole life. I think that's a good thing to do right now. Go out there and ask people. Ask teachers about what they think ought to be done in education. Ask parents about what they think ought to be done in education. Ask business leaders about what they think needs to be done to attract the kind of jobs that we want in Texas. That's what I'm going to do, and that's what the purpose of the exploratory is. I don't have all the answers, but I have a lot of the questions. And I think the answers to those questions that are provided by Texans would help me be both a viable candidate and a good governor if the people allow me to serve.
As you start to your fundraising portion here, I mean, are there groups that for people that you won't take money from?
I'm sure there are. I think you have to be careful in the raising of money. I don't have a list here in front of me of people I want to, but I want people to support my candidacy because they want to do something positive for Texas. I don't want them to do it for cynical reasons. but we'll see how that goes as it goes along.
Hutchison or Perry? Hutchison or Perry, who would you rather?
I think I will be running against, if I'm fortunate enough to have a Democratic nomination, I'll run against the Republican nominee. The Republicans have to be the ones who choose that.
If you were governor today, would you have any compunction about taking any of the stimulus package money?
No. That's one of the questions that I just don't understand. Here is a situation in which the money is going to be out there, and Texans are going to have to cover the check. And that's what it is right now. It's a check that's going to have to be covered. We're going to have to cover the check. Why would we not get to use the money? That makes no sense to me. It makes no sense to me to have a situation in which children are not getting the health care money that is available to them at the federal level. We're leaving $1 billion on the table, almost $1 billion on the table, because somebody wants to argue that they are more conservative than another person in a Republican primary. That makes no sense to me. And those are some of the things that I think we have to answer as we go forward. Government needs to work. I don't want the government to be bigger. I want the government to be better. And I don't think it is working right now, and I think somebody needs to talk about it. How about one more question?
You mentioned in the stimulus, and you mentioned a little bit, I guess, as well, CHIP. Part of the discussion about that is whether or not those programs should be expanded. Where do you come down?
Well, I don't know the details and all the arguments and that. It just doesn't make sense to me that we have available to our children in Texas almost $1 billion, and we don't take that money for ideological reasons. I had asthma as a child. I've had asthma attacks, and they scare you to death. And I think about children that are having those kind of asthma attacks that are not getting any medical care. That makes no sense to me. Because the only thing that occurs to me is the reason they're not getting it is because somebody wants to be more right-wing in a Republican primary than somebody else. That's not good. And I don't think that is something that most Texans would think is fair or right. But there's been no candidate to lay that out to Texans. And those are the kind of things that I want to talk about and the kind of things that I think will resonate with voters. But we'll see. That's what elections are about. One more. Okay. I want to introduce my wife, Suzanne, my son, Paul. I want to tell you how proud I am of them and how glad I am. And I also want to tell you that they just as soon go on with their lives doing other things than this. And